What I love about fly tying is some of the names that are given. I just took a very quick look, and all I saw was pregnant. And I'm going to let you pronounce this one since you're a biologist, and tell us what this is all about. This has obviously got to be a scud of some type.
That's right. This fly pattern, Jack, is called the pregnant Gammarus shrimp, or scud. So shrimp mate numerous times a year. The females with eggs, they hold a cluster of eggs under the underside of their thorax. Trout are not colorblind, and we all know trout can get quite specific in their feeding patterns. And it's very common for trout to feed only on pregnant female shrimp. And we know this by doing throat samples, or through lots of years doing stomach samples. When I was at work, you would do a diet analysis of a fish, and every shrimp in the gut of the fish was a pregnant female. So we tie specific patterns to imitate that orangey reddish brood patch of eggs.
Sounds like they practice population control.
The trout do the thinning.
Well, let's take a look at the scud pattern. I don't think you can have too many scud patterns. They're a fly that's really, as you know from being in the States, we literally love. And there's about every color on earth that a scud can have.
Exactly, and you know, scuds or shrimp, they are truly the bread and butter food source of our productive still waters. Without them, well, put it this way.
They wouldn't put on weight, would they?
That's right. Every good productive still water has a good foundation or population of scuds.
Or freshwater shrimp, as
there you go.
People know. Right. Let's take it away with this innovative pattern.
Shrimp or scuds are a real staple food source of trout in productive still waters. There's basically two very common species of scuds we'll see in our lakes. Hyalella, which are very small, reach about 1/8 of an inch in length, and then their larger cousins called the Gammarus shrimp. They can reach almost 5/8 and even 3/4 of an inch in length when they're fully extended and swimming through the water. I'm going to show you how to tie a pregnant Gammarus shrimp pattern. Now, the reason why I want to get that specific, tying a pregnant female with eggs, is because trout are not colorblind, and they'll actually select just the Gammarus females with an egg sac, a bright orange egg sac of eggs, and they'll just select them out of the maze of millions or trillions of scuds that are swimming around in the water. And we know this by doing throat pumps, or if you did a stomach analysis of a fish, you would see oftentimes 300 or 400 scuds in the stomach of a fish, and they're all just females with an egg sac. And so that's why we're tying this fly. The hook I'm using today is a curved shrimp pupa hook. It's got the nice curved back to give a bit of an arc to the back of the shrimp. I'm using 8/0 olive tying thread. The material for this fly will be Stillwater Solutions soft blend in dark olive, and I'll be using some fine bright orange dubbing for the egg sac, and then as we tie it later, the shell back of this fly will be Stillwater Solutions Midge Flex, 1-inch diameter wide in olive, and that will be the shell back. And we'll finish the fly off with some silver wire, fine silver wire, or pardon me, fine gold wire for the ribbing. So to start the fly off, I've tied my tying thread in, and I'm just forming a tying base down the hook. I'm just going to tie in my final rib of gold wire, tuck that aside, and then I'm going to take my Midge Flex, which is stretchy, and that will be the shell back in the end. So I'm just going to tie that down the shank of the hook as well. So that will be the side. And we're going to take our soft blend dubbing now, and we're going to put a little bit of dubbing wax on our tying thread, like so. So just put some wax there. Our soft blend, and I'm just gonna form a little dubbing. And so yeah, I'm not putting on a lot of dubbing, I'm trying to keep it fairly thin because we can always add more as we tie the fly. And by putting smaller amounts on, we can control the shape of the fly a lot better. So I'm just going to take the dubbing now and bring her, wind her up. I'm going to go about 2/3 the way up the body of the fly to about there. And then I'm going to put a bit more wax on. So, and then I'm going to take some of this bright orange diamond dub that's going to imitate the a brood pouch, the egg sac or brood pouch. Eggs, dub that in there, like so. Get that in there, and then I'm just going to tie that in, fairly prominent, like so. Just going to get rid of that little tag in. And then I'm just going to slide a bit more of my olive soft blend up. That to finish the fly off. Like so. And that'll be good. Then I'm going to take the our shell back and pull her tight over back of the fly, and under pressure, by stretching it, I'm just going to tie it down, like so. And again, wind on both sides of it so it's locked in. Otherwise, it'll let go on you. Cut that off. And then I'm going to go back and get my fine gold wire, and I'm going to add a rib to the fly. So, and tie that off.
Maybe talk a little bit about
Now,
when they're pregnant.
yeah. Now, once I finish the fly and tie it off, I'm going to have to take a dubbing brush, and I'm going to, or a needle, and I'm going to be picking out the legs of this fly. So I'm just going to now take a little bodkin, like so, a little needle. And this takes a little while. You got to do it carefully. It's going to form. But what we're doing here is using it to pick the legs out. Shrimp are a great pattern to use in the spring and in the fall. Trout can eat them every day of the year if they want to, because they're always there, because they don't hatch necessarily at specific times of year. They mate 9-10 times a year, but trout really like to eat them early in the spring, late in the fall, when there's less other food sources available. So we call it a bread and butter food source, and you always want to have some of these in your box. You don't often see free swimming shrimp in a lake. That's because those ones get picked off by trout right away. Where they live and where they seek cover is in and amongst the benthic or emergent vegetation that grows off the shoal or the littoral zone of the lake. They swim in and out of that stuff, trying to keep under cover from any cruising trout that might want to eat them. So that tells us that we want to fish shrimp patterns close to the bottom or close to some vegetations or some structure where they can seek hiding places. So we often use slow or intermediate sinking lines to fish shrimp patterns, or you could use a shrimp pattern, a floating line, and a long leader. And sometimes we'll put soft putty lead or non-toxic putty lead on our leader to help sink that fly a little quicker to get it down there. And we're going to be fishing 4 to 6 inch long, medium, slow strip retrieve to bring the shrimp back to your boat. So now that I've teased out the legs, I'm just going to take my tying scissors and kind of I'm going to trim the legs so that none of the legs are hanging any longer or below the barb of the hook, and that way the fly is going to swim properly in the water. So there we have a pregnant Gammarus shrimp, and we'll just have a quick look at that finished fly.
Shrimp, or better known as scuds, are one of the most common food sources of trout in still waters. They're a bread and butter food source. All productive lakes that support big populations or big fish, all of them have freshwater shrimp in them. They're a staple food source available year-round for trout to feed on. One of the best lines to fish shrimp is a clear, intermediate, or slow sinking line. We're going to cast out and we're going to wait. We have to wait or do a countdown so that we know our fly is close to the bottom of the lake. So, for instance, intermediate sinking lines sink at about 1.5 inches per second. We'll know the depth we're fishing because we're using a depth sounder, or we know, or by looking at a contour map. So we're going to wait enough time for that fly to sink to the bottom. Once it's down within a foot of the bottom, we're going to start a continuous but steady hand twist retrieve with 2 or 3 quick pulls. Scoop them up, see what they look like, see what the color they are, and see the size that they are, because they'll vary in size, and you want to match as closely what you have in your fly box as what's in the water.